Greetings everyone. Today I'm going to make a blog programming session, and today's video, this will be a year-enders vlog, okay, that I'm going to create. This time I'm going to vlog a programming session of my daily life about creating a program using a different programming language. So therefore, in this example, I'm going to use a sample of my old program way back 10 years ago. I think it was being created or started. It started in the year 2009 to develop a payroll system for a certain company. It's my freelance job back then while I'm teaching in a government university, while I do my freelance programming for their company, and I do it with a small amount of fee just to have an experience of how programming work jobs can be done as a freelance. So I use Microsoft Visual Basic 6.0 back then, the year 2009, and I used that to develop an application for them, considering all of those business rules that they have and other configurations with their system. So I'm using this as an example to be able to help budding programmers to know how to make an ERP style, okay, or even a TPS style. Let's say ERP, Enterprise Resource Pro, projects, and also when we say TPS, it's transactional processing system. So what I'm trying to say here now is to at least give you a background on how a real programmer does her job, does his job when trying to create programs or systems. So uh, this is the new programs that I'm working with as a conversion. It's powered by C Sharp, and this is the code of my old program in the way back 2009. It's written in Visual 6.0, so all of the codes are not um, technically ended with a terminal operator, or should we say a semicolon, because if it's a C Sharp, it should be a type-based and also an object-oriented programming. Well, you can say that Visual Basic is another OOP, but also under the RAD, or Rapid Application Development, just like C Sharp nowadays can be attributed to. Um, but then again, C Sharp is powerful. That I also noticed that way back in 2013, and up until now, it's one of those programming language, okay, that could compete with Java. So this is the code, my old code, that tells you how to make loans to be added to your program. How do you consider loans if a certain employee have a single or double, having two loans uh, in a pay period. So you have to consider that in the Philippines we try to pay a certain loan twice a month. So you can say that in a semi-monthly basis, you have to divide the monthly paid into two, okay, to be able to really catch up with your loan accountability. And here's the database. Actually, it's version 2.0 of the old database created in Microsoft Access. So you could see now that this database is divided into three: table payslip, table payslip project, and table payslip deduction. Each of those are now related to the payslip that was created previously. And yeah, it is already normalized in the form of third normalization, but not specifically on this table, where table payslip deduction is uh, being viewed on your screen. You can see that the project deduction 1 and deduction 2 amount 1 and amount 2 are not in a normalized form. I did that on the purpose so that I don't want to create another table to reference it with. You see, if you try to do that, you compromise the speed of, or should we say, efficiency when it comes to querying, okay, or retrieval of records. So if you can just place it into just one table, then I don't see any problems when it comes to referencing. But if you try to make it on a separate record, then you have to consider referencing. You have to add key key ID again, and then do it for indexing too, and then allow allow some computer resources to run again, maybe a memory. You can also think of the memory and the CPU to run just to look uh, for a certain record. But if you know the business rules of your company, then who you worked with, then you definitely know what should be the limit when it comes to this constraint. So this constraint allows you to have at least 10 deductions. So I just placed it onto just one table. Didn't try to normalize it because I don't want to add another table. That's the drawback or the bottleneck of normalizing things. So you are about to create more table, or just try to limit your try to limit the the addition of new table. So just use my system to work that way, and also with that database, you can see that that actually pertains to one uh, database, which is called the payslip alone. This is an old version of the three of that database. You can see that it has also a table and then another table. So this is the second table. This is the second one for DTR, and then this one is for the project monitoring, where it is related to payslips that I show a while ago, and pertaining with the payslip version 2.0, as I said. So there, if I may still recall, the first table, first of those three has 99 fields or columns. Okay? So definitely you'll have to decompose it into two different table. So this is only one of those. Okay? One of those table. This is equivalent to the table for project monitoring, where they use it for where the payslip is used for monitoring the projects that they had over a month or a week, okay, or a year, and that is how they work for it. Imagine if you had 99 fields of those from the previous version. Definitely you will have to consider uh, a certain record will eat up a lot of memory or space. Now this time I'm going to describe the database table of my new version. It was created on MySQL database. MySQL is an MySQL SQL. This is the converted version. So how I did it, I tried to convert the Microsoft Access to Excel, and then convert it into CSV files, and then try to use that CSV file to be imported in MySQL using PHP MyAdmin. And then here you can see okay, compared to the version of MS Access, I'm using this PHP. It's actually fast. Okay. It comes to updating, deletion, and insertion of new records. And you can see all the data types, and also the records that I have. Okay, we have bill health table, project SSS, and even the employee table, and I also normalized some of those bulk of database database into two to three two to three tables, just to give a logical view of separation when it comes to deductions, the employee, and the loan of that employee. And that is the reason why you can see employee loan, table government deductions, and actually table pay period. Okay, you can also use that, and also table payslip, table application requirements, and the rest, even the department. So some of those tables are still blank, or should we say no records at all, simply because I wanted to use my system to to add add records for it. Okay, let's say we have to update, we have to check for the fields. I have here the ID. It has to be an employee ID, so we write emp ID on a purpose, and then try to at least remember the length and values. Okay, up limited to 20. Okay, limited to 20. We have to check on the other table for the same field. um, let's say the ID has to be modified into emp ID, making it more programmer friendly when it comes to referencing um, the tables field to another field. We call it as referencing foreign keys, okay, to another foreign keys, or primary key to be referenced as a foreign key on the other table. Let's see. I think that's all for the employee ID recording. So let's go back to the program. A table monitoring doesn't exist. Okay, so this is another problem when it comes to updating things. Okay, I updated my table, so therefore the table name should reflect on the program source code. Okay, also, so we have to go back to the program and really checked on where it goes. On our source code, we have to type tbl monitoring. Okay, so we are now about to update it. It's not table monitoring, it should be payslip. Okay, tbl payslip. Okay, so I'm not going to update the field pay period for now. I just put it at the back of my mind as thinking that we are doing right. Okay, so there we have a problem with the where clause pay period. Okay, so I'm guessing that the pay period is not really on its proper naming convention, or it's not the same uh, it's not the same field that we had on the MySQL counterpart. Okay, so what did I use then? Pay underscore period. Okay, let's see on the other field, payslip. Okay, okay, so I guess I'm right. Pay underscore period. There, that's the complete name instead of pay period as a composite name or a one word. There should be an underscore underbar between those two words. Let's see. We still have problem. No, we don't have now. Okay, so we're doing right with our program. So we we had no issues with the name field and such. Okay, so yeah, let's see. What else do we have problems with? Let's use some sample records that I have. Okay, actually this now you can call those records that I have as inanimate inanimate records, okay, inanimate person, random person's name, and random deductions. Okay, you can see on my list are some random deduction names. It can be a name of a company's canteen where they eat their lunch, breakfast, okay, or snacks during their free time, or some beverages, okay, where they owed to. So, you can see that as I see those lists, it comes from the database also. There, did you notice that when I type the number against a certain deduction, there is a counterpart text on the right side? That definitely is the name of the location where they consume that certain deduction. So, and also in the middle, the middle should be the amount that they amount of consumption, or the amount that they have to pay, okay, for that certain deduction. So you can say that on the second line that I'm typing now, there is no response on the right side. So I'm guessing that so I'm thinking that I'm not done with the coding for the rest of the code for the second up to the 10th deduction. Just like what I said a while ago, you had the constraint that the company allowed us to make for a deduction is a limit only 10. Okay, they limited to 10 deductions. So yeah, so that is the reason why we can't even see any response on the right side. So let's take a look at the code. Looking at the codes now, we have to really copy the same code with the first one to be added on the second, the third, and up to the 10th deductions. Okay, so I have to place it just, on the text deduction too. So you can see that um, I will just try to run it first and maybe try to see how it works. Okay, if possible, probably would run into uh, possible problems, but at least the code will be there for updating. Okay, so let's see. Let's try it once again. um, Sample record. I'm using surnames rather than employee ID because I can't recall their ID, so I'm using surname for search. Okay, so there, amount, shop. So I have to try this code. 400. Nothing works on the second line. Okay, so let me see. I think I have to rename the objects. Okay, the object name in this code. So yeah, still number one. So definitely it will only affect the location deduction of number one. So I have to rename it to take effect. Okay, so let's do it once again. Let's see, run the program, and let's see how the program will respond onto that code that we had. Okay, 200 shop, and okay, so let's see. There, we're doing good. Okay, so we get the gist of it. Okay, we know how to make the oops. So when I press the tab, it goes into the regular R's. It shouldn't be, because my tab index were already written, updated for each of those deduction. Maybe I'll do that later. Let's see. Try to check first the tab index. Um, tab index of that table is 8. So yeah, I'm doing good. So the other So the other object should must be unique with the other object. Mhm. So there, you really need to check each of those tab index to be updated. Okay, keep that in mind. So I'm going to update those tab indexes. So I have to check all of those tab indexes. Okay, each of those should be overwritten. Okay, make sure that all of them were accounted for. Okay, I'm doing fast checking here, so fast forward. Okay, there. So I'm done with the tab indexes, overwriting them. Then I'm going to copy and paste now the codes of our previous deduction text boxes. I'm going to paste it on the third one. txt cbo3 cbo location. Again, the prefix should match your object, so that's why I'm using cbo instead of the whole word combo box object. Okay, so yeah, here cbo underscore as my prefix. And number 4, the fourth deduction, where it is located. Okay, so all corresponds to what you did on your txt deduction. Okay? So when you write an amount on a certain txt deduction, what you call this, the amount, the location will correspond to it. Okay, so it will it will generate on its own, okay, or provide you a suggested location according to the assigned um, deduction. So if you use some deduction, definitely it will provide some. So how did I do that? I use this SQL code to reference an ID to another table. So you could say that there is a primary key for each of those entry that I use for quick referencing. Okay, now then this is the last one for pasting the final deduction. It's called deduction number 10. But of course, loans are also considered as deduction in the payslip. Okay. So I think we're done with the copy pasting and modification of those objects. So we're done with those events. What else? We'll try to scan through and skim from our previous code, an old code from Visual Basic 6.0. Let's say yeah, this time we'll use the we'll add the final computation for payslip, which is called the net computation or net update. I use the word net update that allows me to update the net and the gross deductions like that for each of those value that will be overwritten. So every now and then when you change a value for each of those objects that we have, like taxes, SSS, Bill Health, um, deductions, loans, things like that. If you change the value of each of those that I've mentioned, then a net update will be called later on. So I'm trying to copy and paste and try to modify it to convert it into um, a C sharp equivalent code. Let's try write a public void function or method here. Um, let's call it net update also, just like the name of our previous code, making it easier for the programmer to recognize what it's for because of its name suggest its function. Okay, so we'll have to add some terminal here. Let's add some semicolon every each of those lines. So trying to update it by copying first the, the tax verification. So we're going to verify if a certain uh, if a certain checkbox was checked first, and then try to do the computation later on. Let's see. Okay, so I need to check the or should I say I need to rename properly each of those checkboxes that we have here. So instead of checkbox, we'll have to name it according to its purpose. Okay, so that it will be easier to call later on in our program. Then ch tax. Okay, not really convinced with the naming convention by now because it's not old. Because it's an old code, as I said a while ago. Maybe I'll try to rename and give it a proper name with its respective prefix. Okay, later on. So today I'm just going to paste it and keep that in mind later on. So let's pause. So I'm going to fast forward now with naming. Right, so we're almost done with renaming the objects with its proper prefix. Okay, I used the chk underscore for each of those objects, and yes, we're trying to limit the lines here by just by removing those excess lines. Okay, so that it will be easier to know which of them belongs to an if condition. Okay, so I'm using if here rather than using if else, if else, if else. Okay, so there. So let's just say that we are only particular with the true value of checking the check boxes if they are checked. We have to copy the next line. Few lines here we have the x and y, because simply because now before I was not only didn't care about that much when it comes to the variable, so we can just use some random variables for it. So I use just if it's just an x and y, I'm just doing it for two variables that will be used for the program, and that's how it is before. So yeah, I'll try to rename it later, okay, with its proper name, and again according to its purpose. Okay, so so there, um, so since it's a y, it can be used for computing your gross. So I should say it's a gross pay. I can say it's a gross pay variable because it's used for regular hours, overtime pay, and then your holiday and total allowance. Let's see. I'll try to declare here a double uh, data type for a certain variable. Okay. So double gross pay underscore comma and then net pay semicolon. So notice that I use a composite name for my variable, no underscore needed, and just use a camel casing for the naming convention. Okay, I apply that name, that camel casing, whenever I use object-oriented programming language. So there, chk big. So there, instead of y, let's use gross pay, the new variable that we created. Then the x as maybe net pay for now, because we can use that for computation of the net pay and the total deductions later on. Okay, so just keep it at the back of my mind that it can be used for net pay and deductions. Okay, so since this is a caption, I will have to replace it with a text method, that text property. Okay, and since it's a y, then just say cross pay. Okay, so it's not accepted because gross pay is a double, and the label, that text, only accepts a value of a string or or an equivalent text version of a value. So we should convert it or just use to string. Okay, to string method. Okay, there. And we are still seeing some warning here. So warnings for all of those objects that you can see on line 43. Let's see. Let's change txt. Instead of val, we'll use convert that double to double method. Okay, and then okay, let's do the same to the rest of the code. Okay, so we have txt over time, then convert txt holiday, and I have to do this on the next line. Okay, so convert again to your allowance, and another conversion of the double to txt others. Okay, almost there. Next, we have the net pay, txt taxed, should be withholding tax. Okay. And what else? SSS. And then for the pill health, I don't know in America, but since this is a sample application that I did for a company that is located in the Philippines, and they adhere with the payment of their taxes, and then try to care about your health by using pill health. Okay, for whatever reason, like health or insurance, okay, something like that. Then you have to know what the company needs about uh, those factor, okay, that I said a while ago. So you have um, to know those. So if it's in Philippines, we use Feel Health. Okay, I don't know in America, but maybe you can do some research on your own about it. Okay, so done. Cash advances. Yes, there. I think we're complete now with the government taxes like pag-ibig and SSS. Let's check about. I think that's it for the net update of the old code. Let's see. Let's do the same with these deductions. Okay. Next, deductions 1 and 2. Okay, I got an idea. Let's just copy the whole thing and just paste it on the other one by pasting like this and removing the last part. Okay, making it easier for coding. So we will know where did we uh, end up with. Okay, just reducing the value, then put it on the next line. Okay, and here and also here. Okay, almost done with the text boxes. With the deductions, and oops, we still need to consider the loans. Okay, so since this is a deduction, loans should be should be included in the code. So let's see. I think it's on the DG data grid view of the loans. So I used the DGV underscore loans before. So let me get back or review my some section of my codes here for complete object and its method and value to be copied. So it's since this is an old code from Visual Basic 6.0, it was written on TXT. Well, in my case, I use data grid view. Let's see. Let's paste it here. It's loans. I think it's rows and columns. Rows calls method, but you see you have to specify the indexes. I'm not really sure it's call or cell method. What comes next of it? Wait, let me just review a bit of my code back then. Oops, there, I found it easily. So this is the code that I need to copy. DGV loans, rows 1, that cells, and then value. Okay, so cell 1, row 1, that value. Let's see, since it's two of them, so we'll have to copy the 0 and 1 and 1 1. Row 1, column 1, row 0, column 1. So row 0 1, that value, cell 1, then we'll do the same on the other value. So we have the other object should be 1 1 and then 0 1 from the previous one. Okay, then paste it here, and next would be the net pay label. We use LBL net pay, roundup of y minus x. We don't need to round it up, we need to see the exact value. So y minus x. Okay, so gross pay minus net pay. Okay, since the value is a numeric value, we'll try to wrap it out. We'll try to convert it later. Okay. Total deductions, that text, then just x should be net pay. Okay, since y is the gross, x should be the net pay, or should we say deduction. Okay. Remember that I use net pay and deduction in this code to replace the x a while ago. So there, that to string. Okay, let's try to verify it first with the previous code. Net pay. that to string. There. Okay, let's see. So we're almost done with the code. So all of those things like taxes and what else, SSS, will be now providing a net update. But then I'll keep that in mind again. Okay, later on our code, we'll need to call it for the program. It's not going to show up here simply because I didn't call the net update. Plus, um, I didn't encode. I haven't encoded the DTR of each of those employee. We're trying to test it right now. Okay, we'll see how it works. So let's see. Let's review the code once again. Fast forward. Okay, so there we're done with the copy and pasting of net update. Let's see how it looks like now. Let's try to use some random. Oh, so we have an error, input string not in the correct format. So it might be that the text values for those deductions and gross are still blank, or null. And that is the reason why, if you happen to notice my text boxes, they are not having their values initially. Okay, so we'll have to add more values on it. So let's say we set it into 0 each of them. Okay, so 0 and the last 0. Okay, there, done with the zeros for each of those value. Okay, so regular hours, overtime pay. Let's try to run it once again. Okay, let's call some random employee. Oops, I pressed the clear button. Okay, there, press enter, and then you see now we don't have any error or warning prompt, okay, on our screen, simply because we supplied the value there initially. And now the gross, the net pay, and uh, total deductions are now showing up at the bottom of our screen or our window. If you scroll our loans, it was all included with our computations. We see the semi-monthly was used for the deductions as well. So we're doing right. If you can happen to see the code, okay, I arrange it into a way that I can see all of them correctly. Okay, each of them should be easily being checked for type checking, and also if all of those objects are being called or used in the program. So let's see. So we have the SSS pag-ibig loans in this. So we're gonna use calculator, okay, to double check the value we're doing it right. So let's just say we add those two loans, 218.75 plus 143. Yeah, almost clear. Oops, I forgot the decimals. So 218.75 plus 143.455. That makes it 362.205, and that is our total deduction. Okay, simply because we don't have a value for the tax, the SSS, field health for now. But if we happen to encode a sample DTR of that person, then definitely will see all of them will be computed. That is also the reason why some of them are not showing up, like the regular hours, the overtime, the EB, the SSS taxes, and the rest. They are not showing up because we don't have a data that we can use for computation of those. But at least if we have that, then it will be generated automatically. Well, we'll go to that later. Okay. Well, this is just to make sure that we're doing this unit test to work. Now let's try to go to the main program, and inside the payroll we will open the DTR. Okay. Okay, FRM DTR. Okay. So that means that we're going to load up another form, not the payroll but the DTR, or daily time record. Okay, so we use that to encode their time record, their time spent, or rendered hours for a certain projects that they've been through. Okay, so let's say yeah, since this DTR happens because back then, the year 2009 and up to 2010, they don't have a system that will automatically compute their daily time record. They use a DTR cards, okay, to encode manually the time they spent on a certain project. Because if a company have to work with other project, then they have a separate DTR for that, and all of those DTR has to be submitted onto the accounting. Okay, there where we've done adding one instance of a DTR of a certain employee. I think it's a guard. Okay, so let's try it once again, going back to the payroll. Let's see, let's check the database first. DTR, now we have two records. So I assume that the latest one is the record for the one that we added a while ago. So let's run the program now. Going back to the program, let's use a sample employee with time. You can see that that person worked for 80 hours, okay, and has 3 hours overtime on that pay period, for that pay period per se. So we have only one loan, and we ended up with 780.65 as for the total deduction, because we added the 230.25 semi-monthly of that loan plus the withholding tax of 550.4. So just in case we add some deductions like SSS or PhilHealth, it will be used for computation too. We've done a good job for this. I guess that will be it for this year-ender coding vlog, okay, that allows you to witness, okay, or observe how coding can be done. Okay, a lot of them could, as you can see, it's all about coding, writing, overwriting, following an algorithm of a previous one, and also trying to debug those codes, and or try to translate it to another language, because if it's an old one to a new programming language like C# or Java, then you have to consider their format. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. See you next year.